Good morning, it's day 13. It's about 7:30 in the morning. This morning I'm headed into town to see if I can get an oil change on my motorcycle before I head north on the peninsula. Got a fairly long day today, about 450 kilometers to go. So that's about 6 hours based on what the GPS is telling me, to the north of the peninsula, and then I'm going to work my way back down south. I've got a ferry schedule on Thursday, slightly before noon. That is my schedule for the next few days, and I'm looking forward to it. The weather's supposed to be good between now and Thursday when I leave Newfoundland.
So I am the last visitor for this 2022 season at this park. Park ranger was very friendly. Both of them were, with the guys that were working here. Super quiet last night other than the wind. And the wind was blowing pretty hard, although it dropped off, and now it's pretty calm. So the tent was flapping around in the breeze last night for quite a while. Here's the first river crossing, which is a short one. It's a little unnerving to have to keep on these wooden treads. They're wide enough that it's not, in reality, much of an impediment. It's more a psychological impediment than a physical one. Here comes river crossing number 2. And I think I'm going to end up on the dirt road after this. 24 kilometers to go to Route 430. Eyes straight ahead. Down to the left or to the right, you're going to put your motorcycle tire there. You could hear the river last night running. Big waterfall. Yeah, there's a lot of water coming over those rocks. It's 10:40 in the morning. Just got my oil changed and dressed the chain on my bike, the drive chain. Headed northwest. I'm going to go through the national park on my way up to the top of the peninsula, which is, per the GPS, 419 kilometers, 5 hours 13 minutes. So that'll put me in late afternoon, assuming everything goes well. Also have a full tank of fuel. Reminds me a little bit of Maine, the way the landscape looks. Lots of pine trees too. We are going into Gros Morne National Park. UNESCO World Heritage Site. Apparently moose hunting season just opened, so the repair shop that I was at was full of ATVs getting serviced because the hunters were getting ready for the moose hunting season. Some elevation changes. Haven't experienced these since the Rockies. I think the highest mountain I saw was about 803 meters, if I remember correctly. Really pretty here. Very wilderness. Oh, look at that. Very nice. Well, I've heard good things about this park. That is the Gulf of St. Lawrence. We've made it to the other side, the west side of Newfoundland. I'm on 430 north. They call this the Viking Trail. Caribou. Wow. Both moose and caribou up here. It's got some bite to it. Starting to feel like the Midwest. Look, it's way out there in the distance. The topography's changed from the mountains earlier. Not much up here, a couple little towns that I've gone through, but for the most part it's like this or on the coast, which is not very far to my left. Reminds me a little bit of Iceland. It must be Labrador over there. There's a ferry that crosses near here to over there. Oh, look at that wind. It's just relentless. That's quite the vista. Long way along the shoreline. I'm starting to run out of room now. I've only got 87 kilometers to go to fairly close to the northern tip. I hope this provincial park has some wind protection. I'm not going to be able to stay there. I don't think my little 2-man tent is going to be able to stand up to these kind of winds without damaging the tent and causing bigger problems. Oh, it's got to be 40 knots easily. I told the woman in the grocery store when she asked where I was going, and I told her the north part of the peninsula, and she said, "Oh, it's windy up there." I didn't take it seriously enough when I said that. Man, it's just brutal. My bike thermometer says it's 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which doesn't seem possible because the wind seems like freezing cold. And I guess it's just the velocity is stealing my body heat. It feels like it's 45 degrees. There's just nowhere to pull off. I'm going mile after mile. And nowhere to get off the road and take a break. I don't like getting stuck in these situations where there's nowhere I can get off the bike comfortably. Welcome to Vinland. Everything Viking up here. There it is. Pistole Bay Provincial Park, 12 kilometers. I went into the visitor center and a fellow approached me and said, "Looks like your headlamp might be out." So I told him I'd go out and check on it, and sure enough it was, which is aggravating because they just changed the bulb less than 6 months ago. Had a brand new bulb in it and it's out, so now I'm running on high beam. Just give me some visibility to oncoming traffic. Problem is that if there's if that goes out, it's very difficult to get into the headlamp to replace it in the field. So hopefully I can run high beams for the rest of my couple of weeks here, and then replace the regular beam when I get back home. Pistole Bay Provincial Park. Hey, how are you today? Oh, doing all right. A little chillier than I'd like, but I'm hanging in there. I said it's a little chillier than I'd like.
Oh yeah, we're getting the fall now.
Feels like it.
And you got that wind too, boy.
Yeah, the wind is what's doing me in. Hey, I don't have a reservation. I was looking for a tent site. There's two things. One, do you have a site that's for tents where I can drive stakes in the ground?
I'll tell you what.
And two, I'm looking for something with some wind protection if you got it.
This is the Pistole Bay campsite. The campsite was really well protected from the wind, and there's a nice grass patch to be able to drive stakes into the ground. So I slept extremely well last night. So I'm ready to go to Meadows and look at the 1000 AD Nordic village, and then I will head south to the national park today.
It's day 14. It's about 8:30 in the morning. Headed to Meadows. Had a great campsite. The ranger really picked out a good one for me. It was protected from the wind. I could hear the wind howling last night, but I was down in this really dense area, and the tent was hardly flapping at all. It was great. And then the site itself was grass, so I was able to get my tent stakes in the ground, which doesn't sound like much, but when it's windy out, it just sets the tent up so much better, and it protects the fabric and the poles and all that if it's properly staked out. So all in all, it was a very pleasant experience. Nice clean restrooms. I ran into a couple from Arizona back in Nova Scotia, and they ended up being here last night, so I got a chance to catch up with them a little bit. They're on a couple-month journey up here through the northeast to Canada and northeast United States. I'm headed to Meadows. Should only be about a 35-40 minute ride from where I am right now, and I'll spend an hour or two there, and then I'm going to head down the coast again, hopefully with a little bit less wind than yesterday, to the national park and try to visit there a little bit, maybe this afternoon and tomorrow morning, before I then head on down to the southwestern tip of Newfoundland to pick up my ferry on Thursday at noon. Today is Tuesday morning, 8:43 local time. Welcome to Meadows National Historic Site, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Visitor Center to the left. The place was founded in 1961 by a husband and wife archaeology team, and then they spent 6 or 7 years excavating it and did carbon dating based on what they saw in the carbon dating. They're fairly convinced that it is Viking. I think the mean carbon dating was 1014 AD for all the different things that they tested. They believe it actually may have been a boat repair facility more than a full-time settlement, and they also have reason to believe, based on some of the oral history that was handed down, that Vikings actually made it further south than this, and they may have used this as an outpost in order to go further south into the continent. I believe this is the dwelling site of Leif Erikson. So Meadows is the UNESCO World Heritage Site. and well worth the visit if you go to Newfoundland. It's a pretty cool place. I spent a couple hours here. There's both the original remains of the structures as well as the recreated buildings that I just walked through. And then there are artifacts in the visitor center. So it's all very cool, especially when you think that it's dated back to 1000 AD. The sculpture represents the meeting of the eastern migration of humans from Africa 100,000 or so years ago, meeting the western migration from Europe back at 1000 AD. So the eastern migration is represented by the sculpture on the left. The western migration finally being the eastern migration is symbolized by the bronze statue on the right. It's 11:30. I'm headed down to Arches Provincial Park. 287 kilometers, a little less than 4 hours to go. At the furthest northern part of my trip, there at Meadows, my odometer for the trip was roughly 2,500 miles. Everything from here on is south and west as I work my way back to Connecticut. Much more comfortable ride today than yesterday. Some of that I think is due to the fact that the wind is mostly out of the north and I'm heading mostly south. Some east and west thrown in, but some of it may be due to the fact that the winds have calmed down, I think a little bit from yesterday as well. The skies have almost completely cleared as I head my way south. That road stretches way out there. That's these little villages along the way. There's a good view of Labrador. What a difference 24 hours makes. Yesterday I was just getting battered by the wind and a little bit of misty rain, overcast. It's kind of a miserable ride. Today it's like, this is glorious. It's got great views, the water, St. Lawrence Seaway. Not a lot of traffic out here. Mighty Gulf of St. Lawrence. Huge body of water. I've seen it before on maps, but until you see it in person, it's hard to imagine its size. Arches Provincial Park is north of the national park by, it looks on the map to be 50 to 60 kilometers. Arches Provincial Park. And you don't have to go very far. See the arch. The arches showcase the geological formation formed over millions of years as a result of glacial action, wind and water erosion, and other environmental changes. That are here. Pretty little area. It was a pleasant stop. I've got 43 kilometers or so to go to a place called, I think it's Western Brook. Here we go, in a Gross Mourne National Park. right, here we go, Green Point. About 10 minutes back to where that hike begins, that 5 kilometer plus hike. See if we can get a spot here tonight. Maybe hike that in the morning if the weather's good. This is the evening of day number 14. Green Point is the name of the campground in the Grossmorn National Park. It's a little after 5 o'clock, I believe, and I'm going to set up camp and have dinner.